My colleagues and I were quite convinced that our experience led us to feel that we could be a positive force in situations like Belfast, where there are centuries of hatred and religious animosity and economic disparity and so on between the Protestants and the Catholics. A great deal of careful background work went into this. They wanted to film interaction in a group, and the group was carefully selected to include militant Protestants on the one hand, militant Catholics on the other, some that were in between. A British colonel represented the retired colonel represented the English aspect of it, and we met. We only had a small amount of funds. We met for only 16 hours, spread over several days.
Under what auspices did you get together? The mere fact that a group with these differences of opinion would sit down and talk is not at all usual.
No, it's not. That was due to very good work by two of our staff who went to Belfast, talked with community leaders, got their help in selecting the group, and also their help in selling the idea to the members that this was okay to be a part of this. They had some very unusual and, in one instance, very frightening experiences. They finally, after being led from place to place to place, finally got in touch with a high-up man in the IRA, and he listened to their case and gave his approval that, okay, he would be willing to see someone go representing the militant Catholic point of view. And
so your intervention came at the time when there had been a risk by some people to create the forum,
that's right.
And your personal role was to work within this forum of a small number of people, and you had 16 hours over several days.
Correct.
What happened?
First, it seemed as though there was nothing but bitterness and horrible experiences. One man told how his sister had come to visit him, was in his home for a little while, went out to do a bit of shopping, was blown up. Nobody knew whose bomb it was, whether it was Catholic or Protestant bomb. Another man told of how he and his family had to huddle down behind mattresses when a shooting broke out in their street, and he had a part in picking up the broken and wounded bodies in the street. A young Protestant woman told how if she saw a wounded IRA man lying in the street, she'd step on him. It was that kind of really hostile attitudes. And yet, as they were encouraged to express their feelings, and their feelings were understood and accepted and not judged, their defenses came down. They weren't quite so vehement. Little by little they began to understand each other, sometimes dramatically so. One Protestant man said toward the end that he really pitied this Catholic mother trying to deal with her boys, that he thought she was in a worse situation than he was. It showed real understanding. That had to be cut out of the film for fear he would be shot when he got back to Belfast. But by the end of that time, there was much better feeling between the groups. We had no money for follow-up. We thought that was it. But no, on their own initiative, they met again and again in Belfast at the home of the English colonel because his home was the safest. They went out in groups, in teams of two, a Protestant and a Catholic, showed the film to church groups, school groups, other groups in Ireland. They were a real force for peaceful reconciliation. And that they were effective is shown by the fact that 4 copies of that film were destroyed by paramilitary forces, some by Catholic paramilitary, some by Protestant paramilitary, until they realized they should never let the film out of their eyesight. They had to really protect their copies of the film.
Would you share a bit more about what the role of the facilitator was,
yes,
and what learnings you think can be derived from this experience?
I think the role of the facilitator was to be as acceptant as possible of the most divergent attitudes, to understand empathically this young woman who would crush an IRA man, to extend equal understanding to someone feeling equal bitterness on the other side. That enables the feelings to be present and accepted without their being dangerous or harmful. So that acceptance and empathy play a large part in the facilitative role. Then some of the learnings, I think we all learned, that even, well, consider what happened there. Feuds which, as I say, have been going on for centuries, which have their roots generations ago, in 16 hours, melted to a point where individuals would form teams to go out and persuade other individuals to get together. So that it was definite evidence that even the bitterest of feuds can be helped toward reconciliation.
If you can create a climate where
we can create a climate,
people get access to their deepest feelings and are heard and understood.
Right. And we really have some understanding of how that climate can be created.